Imagine a team with the ability to rewrite a league's history time and time again. That team is the Boston Celtics, because they hold exactly 18 championships, the most in NBA history. I'm talking about a legacy that even surpasses that of the Los Angeles Lakers. But of course, that title didn't just fall from the sky. The weight of the green jersey, the world's most intense fan pressure, a veritable chain of stars stretching from Russell to Bird, from Pierce to Tatum. I'd say the Celtics you see today are the sum of 70 years of pivotal moments. And in this video, we'll start counting down the 10 pivotal moments that have profoundly influenced and truly transformed the fate of this franchise. And believe me, number one might not be as predictable as you think. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because content like this that you'll love will keep coming all throughout the NBA season. Let's get started right away with number 10. Number 10, the price of a bad bet. First up, it's the summer of 1997. The Celtics had officially hit rock bottom at that time. They just wrapped up the worst season in franchise history with 15 wins and 67 losses, but they were in lottery mode. That is, Boston had 2 lottery picks and the number 1 overall pick. So they had a combined 36% chance of drafting Tim Duncan, and that was truly the best shot in the league. In fact, college legend Pitino, coming over from Kentucky, immediately took the helm with a 10-year, $70 million contract. I'd say the entire plan hinged on that one name. Then the lottery balls spun, and luck smiled on San Antonio. They managed to snag the number 1 pick with just a 21.6% chance. Duncan was now headed there. Boston was left with the 3rd and 6th picks. Pitino suddenly panicked. He traded the young Chauncey Billups after just 51 games and effectively tore the roster apart with a 102-146 record. He was forced to resign in 2001. Following this, the American sports media wrote in detail about the era as a complete disaster. However, the ironic part of the story is that amid all that chaos, he had selected Paul Pierce with the 10th pick in 1998, the face of the next decade. Without realizing it, he had essentially pulled him out of the rubble. Number 9, pick. The big move. In 1980, Larry Bird was playing his first season in the league, but Red Auerbach wasn't done yet. He sat down at the negotiating table with the Golden State Warriors and pulled off what is likely one of the most lopsided trades in NBA history. Boston sent its number 1 pick and the 13th overall pick to the Warriors. In return, they received the number 3 pick and a young center, Robert Parrish. With that number 3 pick, they selected Kevin McHale. Bird, McHale, Parrish, considered by many to be the greatest front court trio in history. And this trio won 3 championships in 1981, 84, and 1986. For most of the 80s, Boston found itself in a situation that fueled that legendary rivalry with Magic's Showtime Lakers. Number 8, the loss of the silent captain. Here's the thing, after Larry Bird's retirement, Boston was looking for a leader, and they found one, Reggie Lewis. A quiet but deadly scorer who came out of Northeastern. When Bird stepped down, he took over the captain's armband. He averaged 20.8 points per game for 2 consecutive seasons. A rising star, the future of the franchise. Then came April 29th, 1993. He collapsed on the court during a playoff game against Charlotte. Doctors were divided. Some said his career was over, others that he could continue. Lewis chose to return. On July 27th, 1993, while simply shooting hoops in the practice gym at Brandeis University, his heart stopped. He was 27 years old. Diagnosis: hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, the deadliest heart defect among young athletes. As you can imagine, Boston gathered once again for a funeral. Number 35 was retired, and the Celtics laid to rest 2 generations of stars in a short span of time. The dream of a post-Bird rebirth was extinguished on that court. The franchise entered a long and dark decade. Number 7, 3 stars in a single night. This was 19 years ago. The year was 2007. Paul Pierce had been fighting alone for years. Boston had finished the season with a 24-58 record, and hope was running out. Then Danny Ainge made a big move. First, On June 28th, he brought in Ray Allen from Seattle. Then, on July 31st, the bombshell dropped. Kevin Garnett from Minnesota. In exchange, half the roster was traded away. Al Jefferson, a few young players, and future first-round picks. Of course, in a single night, Pierce, Allen, and Garnett came together. Doc Rivers taught the team an African concept, Ubuntu. I am because we are. Boston leaped from 24 to 58 to 66 to 16. This 42-win improvement is, according to Guinness World Records, the biggest single-season jump in NBA history. The previous record was the 1997-98 San Antonio Spurs 36-win improvement. Ainge was named Executive of the Year. Ultimately, in the finals, they defeated their arch-rivals, the Lakers, in 6 games. The final game ended 131-92. Pierce was named Finals MVP. Banner number 17 ended a 22-year championship drought. And the era of the modern super team, 3 stars united under one roof, was born right here in Boston. Number 6, the legend of a year of patience. In 1978, the Celtics were going through a really rough patch. On draft day, Red Auerbach took a huge risk. With the 6th pick, he selected a junior-eligible player from Indiana State. That player was Larry Bird, but Bird wouldn't be joining the team that year. He had decided to play his senior year in college, and under the rules of the time, Boston could retain his rights for 1 year. After all, 1 year isn't that long, Auerbach told those who questioned him, and the following summer, after leading Indiana State to the NCAA final, Bird signed the highest rookie contract of all time up to that point. The league was forced to change its draft eligibility rules following this incident. These rules would come to be known as the Bird Rule. The rest, as you know, 3 consecutive MVP awards from 1984 to 1986. 3 championships. In doing so, Bird revived a franchise going through tough times, and in particular, a league whose popularity was on the decline. Number 5, the dynasty crumbles, Achilles trade and farewell. 2 years ago, the dust from the 2024 championship had barely settled when Boston's world turned upside down. May 12, 2025, Game 4 of the conference semifinals against the New York Knicks. Jason Tatum is on the floor. His right Achilles tendon snapped at the very peak of a star's career. It was one of the most devastating injuries in NBA history. Of course, the blow didn't end there. The team had been up for sale since the summer of 2024. In March 2025, a group led by Bill Chisholm of Symphony Technology Group purchased the franchise. This $6.1 billion sale, unanimously approved by the NBA Board of Governors, surpassed the NFL's Washington Commanders' 2023 record of $6.05 billion. The total value under full control could reach $7.3 billion by 2028, the most expensive ownership deal in American sports history. Number 4, not the 16th, but the 18th. The night the Lakers were overtaken, there's a date to remember, June 17th, 2024. Officially, Boston had been waiting for this moment for years. Tatum and Brown finally led a fan base whose hearts had been broken time and again to the pinnacle. They were the league leaders all season long with 64 wins and 18 losses. They advanced through the playoffs with overwhelming force. In the finals, they defeated the Dallas Mavericks 4-1. The long-awaited moment had finally arrived, their 18th championship. Boston surpassed the Lakers, who remained at 17, to become the most successful team in NBA history, standing alone and undisputed at the top. Jaylen Brown was named Finals MVP. Tatum put on his first ring. On the sidelines, young Joe Mazzulla. In the office, Brad Stevens. It had been a long wait, a 16-year drought, but it was over. Yet this was more than just a championship. It was the seal of their claim to supremacy in a rivalry that had spanned decades. The Celtics were no longer one of the teams with the most banners. They were, by themselves, the team with the most banners. That "we're the best" belief at the heart of the franchise's identity became a tangible reality tonight. Number 3, a future vanished in 2 days. 40 years ago, the Celtics had just won their 16th championship. Bird and McHale were at the top of their game, but of course they were getting older, and Red Auerbach had made a brilliant move years earlier in 1984. He traded Gerald Henderson to Seattle in exchange for the second overall pick in the 1986 draft. Of course, with that pick, he acquired a true scoring machine, Len Bias, a young prodigy who would lighten Bird's load and truly extend the dynasty. I'm talking about a player with a body ready for the NBA and talent compared to Michael Jordan's. Then just 2 days after the draft, on June 19, 1986, he died from a heart arrhythmia caused by a banned substance. He was only 22 years old. He hadn't even played a single game yet. And in the wake of this tragedy, Boston lost not just a player, but an entire future in those years. McHale grew old with foot injuries, Parrish wore out, and Bird's back gave out. He could no longer bear the heavy burden. And the next championship was a full 22 years away. Thus, history's most painful what-if question descended upon the green jersey that night and truly lingered there for decades. Number 2, a smart trade. By the time 2013 rolled around, Danny Ainge had to make a truly difficult decision because Pierce and Garnett were genuinely getting old. Consequently, the window for a championship was closing. Ainge had to officially set his emotions aside. He traded these two legends, Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, along with Jason Terry, to the Brooklyn Nets. What he received in return wasn't actually a player. It was essentially a mountain of future assets, first-round picks in 2014, 2016, and 2018, plus a pick swap right for 2017. The critics watching on TV that night were truly ruthless. Boston fans had also booed loudly when the team selected Brown on draft night. They officially hung the 18th championship banner from the rafters. The trade was so one-sided that, according to some commentators, the league even considered a rule change in 2017 to prevent something like this from happening. This shrewd trade effectively laid the foundation for the modern Celtics. Number 1, the trade that started it all. First of all, I'd like to point out that the Boston Celtics were founded on June 6, 1946, by Walter Brown, president of the Boston Garden Arena Corporation, as one of the 11 founding teams of the Basketball Association of America. The name came from Boston's large Irish population and the legendary Original Celtics traveling team. The first head coach was John "Honey" Russell, but the first 4 years were a bust. In 1949, the league adopted the name NBA, and Boston remained a losing team until Red Auerbach arrived in 1950. In fact, the real turning point came in 1956. There was a defensive genius from San Francisco, Bill Russell. The St. Louis Hawks selected him with the second overall pick. Auerbach stepped in. According to legend, Walter Brown even arranged a week-long Ice Capades show to convince Rochester not to draft Russell. Boston then traded star center Ed Macauley and the rights to Cliff Hagan to acquire Russell. This would later be remembered as one of the most significant trades in North American sports history. Russell won 11 championships over 13 seasons, 8 in a row from 1959 to 1966, averaging 22.5 rebounds per game. No athlete has ever matched that feat. In 1966, he became a player coach, the first black head coach in Major League sports in the United States. He led the team to 2 more championships in 1968 and 1969. It's likely that without this trade, there would have been no dynasty, no 18 banners, and none of the weight the word Celtics carries today. Everything, absolutely everything, began with that single deal. After everything I've shared, I can say this. The story of the Boston Celtics isn't just about victories. The losses of Len Bias and Reggie Lewis are, of course, also part of this legacy, and the missed opportunity with Duncan too, and every rise was absolutely born from the ashes of a fall. I'm certain that today's identity, that proud, even ruthless, and above all, win-at-all-cost spirits, is shaped by the sum of all these moments I've mentioned. Now, I want to ask you, without Jaylen Brown and with Tatum returning from injury, Can Boston rise to the top again, or will banner 18 be the final banner for an entire generation? Post your own top 10 list in the comments. Let me know if I've misplaced any moments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because in Boston, history never stops. It just waits for the next banner.